All right. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. All right, almost everybody's in. All right, just for a few minutes, be in Canvas, and you should be on the unit that's classification of fingerprints. So yesterday we looked at a video and we looked at the different types of fingerprints. So that Canvas lesson deals with that. I want you to take about, while we're waiting for everybody to come in, take about 5 minutes to look that over. And then I have another video for you. I gave you a homework assignment to look at your find a way to look at your fingerprints. Uh, so tomorrow I'm gonna actually have an activity for you to actually submit your fingerprints and tell me about your fingerprint. So if you haven't already done so, um, there are different vegetables that create a stain. And I know you've probably handled some things that will give you a stain. Um, I'm not recommending that you get some ink. Like I was changing my ink cartridge the other day and got ink all over my fingers, since you could have used that as a print maker. But find a way to create your fingerprint. All right, so the video we watched the other day talked about loops and whorls and arches. So go ahead and read this passage over for the next few minutes. So this is Canvas, and it's a classification of fingerprint lesson. So I checked mine out, and I have whorl fingerprints. All right, so read over this page, and then we're going to look at a video. All right, everybody seemed to have come in at one time, so this might be all that's coming at the moment, but take 5 minutes to read anyway. Up here. All right, good morning, good morning. If you just came in, we're looking at classification of fingerprints in Canvas for the next few minutes, and then we're going to watch another video. This is kind of a review of the video that we already did, and I did challenge you to figure out the pattern on your fingerprint, and we'll work on that tomorrow. So you do need to find a way to actually get a print, because I'm going to have you upload a discussion about your fingerprint. So look this over. The video talked about identifying the deltas. Uh, so again, if you don't have a magnifying glass, sometimes people have those. If you have someone who's a little bit older, they might have one of these reading thing, maybe not as big as this. I don't remember why I have this one, but some they have these reader magnifiers, and they'll magnify it pretty good so that you can see what you're doing. I know you don't have a microscope, but um, you got something around the house. Sometimes your glasses, if you use your glasses, they magnify it pretty good too, depending on how you hold it. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing so I can do attendance, but everybody should be reading. Then I'm gonna come back and do we'll do the video. Hmm, okay. Oh, there's Anthony. Good morning, Anthony. We are in Canvas and we are looking at the forensics classification unit. As soon as I finish attendance. So please log into that and read that over. It is here. Kinsey. All right, so again, um, you need to make sure you're familiar with the different types of classifications for or the patterns of swirls on your fingerprints. Again, find a way to uh, figure out what yours is, and I'll give you another few minutes to continue looking this over, and then we'll watch the video. All right, make sure that you get to the part here. So the video you're going to watch is going to talk about the types of fingerprints, and these we have patent, plastic, and latent. If you watch crime stories, they talk about latent fingerprints a lot. All right, so if you haven't finished reading that, we'll come back to that. I'm going to go ahead and switch to the video. This is our short day, so we're going to just keep moving.
Forensic work here. I've collected fingerprints from a few of our colleagues, and what you see here is 4 fingerprints I took, 2 of which are from the exact same finger. So I want to see if you can match which 2 prints are from the same finger. This is Explainer Club, where video producers like me sit down and explain something to one of our coworkers. And today, that is Kim.
I'm a video producer, and I work on primarily health and science content.
And I do history, culture, and sometimes science videos.
So I think A and B. That's my first guess, and that's just because I see this like little swirl coming up. And these two just look so different because you have like this little hump down here. I think I still want to say A and B are the same.
Okay.
I feel like I completely blew that.
No.
I feel like the okay was a little like...
You are... No. The answer was A and C.
Oh, shoot.
They're both from the left thumb. So what is interesting to me about this, though, is all of these fingerprints are from the same person.
Oh.
I think we all know every person has their own fingerprint.
Right.
But I didn't know before I started working on this that each individual finger on your hands is different from each other. Did you know that?
Like they're completely different?
Police practice, when you get fingerprinted, they'll take all 10.
That makes sense, yeah. But that makes it seem like it's so much harder to actually identify if a fingerprint belongs to a person if every single one is different.
Right. Without this full reference, you wouldn't be able to match one fingerprint to another and say this came from the same hand or even the same person. But there is this new AI tool that says it can do it. That's what we're going to talk about today.
Okay, cool, yeah.
Cool. Then we're going to probably run the logo there.
Logo.
Stop researching with
Commercial already.
ChatGPT. Its information is not reliable, and you can't.
Logo.
Okay, I'll show you something else. This is a copy of the actual fingerprinting card that the FBI uses. This one is kind of a practice for me. I learned while making this video that taking someone's fingerprint, if you're not trained to do that, is actually kind of hard. Did it work? No, I think I f***ed it up. The FBI's fingerprint archive currently houses around 165 million fingerprint records, and they start on these cards. So if you're arrested for a crime in the US, you will get your fingerprints taken by the police, and they're stored on file even if you're not proven guilty. So if you flip this over, these are the three main patterns used to classify fingerprints: the arch, whirl, and loop.
Okay, I feel that you should have given me this before the quiz, Coleman. I feel I wasn't prepared.
Okay, that is fair.
But no, this is cool.
So the ridges in an arch pattern come from one side of the fingertip and then exit out the other side. Then a whirl spirals into a center point, and a loop comes from one side of the finger and then back out the same side.
This little bottom part's like an arch, right? And this is a loop because this is coming back this way.
Yeah, exactly.
Not a lot of whirls going on. Is whirl more rare?
It's kind of in the middle. About 60% of people have loops. That's the most common. Whirl is considered like around 35%. And then arches are actually very rare.
Oh, interesting.
These general categories are really just for classification. Actually analyzing and matching an individual fingerprint is in the minutia, the little breaks and splits along each individual ridge, not the overall pattern. And the most common markings are when you follow a ridge and it ends, that's called a ridge ending. And then if you follow along a ridge and it splits into two, that's called a bifurcation. There's an island, which is like that little dot. When a ridge splits, but then quickly rejoins, it's called a lake. And then that's a bridge connecting two ridges. So analysts will basically just go ridge by ridge and mark these details, and that is where uniqueness in fingerprints really comes from. Not even identical twins who have matching DNA have matching fingerprints when you get to the minutia. So the minutia is how analysts have been matching fingerprints for more than a century.
Is that coming from outside factors? Like it's not genetic anymore? Like if I burn my finger or something like that, is that where most of minutia is from?
That's a great question. It doesn't come from your lifetime.
I'm just thinking of like Men in Black where Will Smith has to like grab the thing and it just burns his fingerprints off.
One you encounter.
That would be hard to actually do. It's very hard to get rid of your fingerprints, and they don't change over your lifetime. They're actually tiny ridges of tissue under your skin.
Oh.
They're called friction ridges. Even if you burned off your fingertips, your palms, your other joints, they're all equally unique because they have the same friction ridges. So I want to show you something on my computer. By the time you're born, your fingerprints are already set. So they form in the womb. Their pattern begins with some genetic influence from your parents as a shape in the center, the fingertip, and top of your first knuckle. The ridges grow from there in waves, following what's called a Turing pattern. This is a concept proposed by Alan Turing in the 1950s that helps explain other unique patterns in nature, like how a leopard gets its spots, how a zebra gets its stripes, and sand dunes.
Oh, hey, how's it going? I'm pen and paper guy.
And I'm motion.
Well, I have a system. You see,
That's pretty.
It's beautiful. And so what I want to show you is there are actually some cool simulators online that can kind of give you an idea of how a Turing pattern, how they work.
Oh, that's so fun. Oh, it looks like a brain. That's creepy.
These waves and the way they merge and collide ends up with a unique pattern. So I want to ask you about the video that you made about how our voice is like a fingerprint too.
As humans, each of us produces a sound that's about as unique as a fingerprint.
So the whole point of that video was to just explain the amount of things that go into producing your voice. Your nasal cavity, your tongue, your vocal cords have different thicknesses and lengths. There's just so many minuscule little factors that will just change how you sound. And therefore we went with why your voice is like a fingerprint. People in the comments were just like, actually, fingerprints are not unique. The thing is like, we can't prove it. I think maybe that's what they mean.
I could see the doubt, and I've seen questions online like, if they didn't take everybody's fingerprint, how do they know they're all unique? It's a probability issue, especially the way these things form under our skin, which is truly random. And there's just so many data points in here that it was estimated, even at sort of towards the beginning in the history of fingerprinting, the odds of having the exact same pattern, when you get down to the minutia, are like 1 in 64 billion. And I think that people feel comfortable enough saying that no two fingerprints are alike. But about a year ago, that might have changed. I'm gonna play a clip from a phone interview that I did recently. This is a transcript of what you're about to hear. Take a listen to this.
My name is Hod Lipson. I'm a roboticist, AI researcher here at Columbia, and I have nothing to do with forensics, fingerprints, anything like that. Once you understand AI, you can apply it to taking a fresh look at some hard problems, and this is one of them.
What he's talking about is this study published in Science Advances that one of his students was the lead author on that claims to have trained an AI to identify whether a pair of fingerprints came from the same person or not. So what they did was feed pairs of fingerprints, sometimes from different people, sometimes the same person but different fingers, into the AI and asked a simple question. Same person or two different people?
And so he found the data set, which was a set of about 60,000 fingerprints from, I think, mostly from deceased people. This is a public data set. He set up the AI, again, not a fancy AI, and had it look at this. And lo and behold, he was able to do it fairly effectively, which led us to ask more questions like, how are you doing it? What are the features you're using? And the AI shows you, and it's looking at fingerprints in a completely different way than humans.
It found similarities to pretty successfully identify whether it was the same person or not.
How does it do that?
I want to show you what it was looking at. Instead of examining the minutia, like a human analyst does, the machine focused on the subtle curve shape and different angles of ridge lines in the center of the fingerprints. So what this chart is basically showing is when it examined a raw image, the machine was right about 80% of the time when asked the question, same person or different people. And even when you removed a lot of the detail, including the minutia, and you were left with just this orientation, it was still right about 75% of the time. So it doesn't need the minutia. And in fact, when they did just the minutia and removed all other details, it was the least effective. It was around 60%, which is not much better than a random guess. That's just to examine if the prints came from the same person or not. To match an exact fingerprint to an exact fingerprint, you would still need the minutia. There's been some pushback from experts in the field of forensics about the study who say the paper alone won't change the way we interpret fingerprints. And the authors themselves acknowledge that there's more research that needs to be done.
We took it as far as we can using the public data sets, but I'm sure if the FBI wanted to do this, they could do a much better job. But a slightly deeper issue is discovery is that we've been looking at fingerprints. Perhaps we're missing a lot of information because we were overlooking things like curvature and things that AI suggests are actually very meaningful. It gives us a new language to look at fingerprints.
A general optimistic view of AI that I hope to have is how it can teach us to see new things, and also just in the field of medical diagnostics to be able to catch things like tumors or cancers, and like how much we can use machine learning to improve the lives of people. I asked you to do a little bit of homework. I was wondering if you had any thoughts just on that general big picture idea.
Yeah, the interesting thing about AI is that typically when we're reading about it or talking about it or everything, there's this like huge future of work thing that comes up where they're just like, the robots are going to replace us. And I kind of like this other lens that came up when I started looking into, you had asked me to look into like the medical field specifically. One quote that I saw more than once was that AI is not going to replace the doctor, it's going to replace the doctor that doesn't use AI. The idea there being that doctors will just evolve with this technology and they will start using it to help advance themselves, diagnosing things like cancers. How much more quickly can we work in a crisis if we have a machine next to us eliminating the problems? These tools raise so many questions. I think we're trained to kind of take a really cynical approach with most of them.
Yeah.
But the idea that it's just we can learn from the machine too, I like that back and forth. I like that version of things.
I like that too. That makes me feel better about the machines. Thanks for watching. We wanted to do something different with this video, to take our standard explainer video and see what happens when we lay out the explanation in a room with another person. For this video, that meant doing a lot of my After Effects and design work, which is usually the last thing I do, early on while I researched and wrote the video. And then instead of doing multiple takes in a VO booth, shooting the whole thing in one go and hoping it goes well.
We've been so focused on the minutiae,
I think it's minutiae, but can
All
I
right,
should.
and that was one of the vocabulary words in your on your list. So let's come back up here to make sure that you see that. All right, so in Canvas, they talked about minutiae and what that is, and they also looked at the different swirls and patterns. All right, so if you haven't finished reading that, please go back and finish reading that, and also start looking at this next section. So we're going to have just a reading day today, and make sure that you are caught up on your research. So please read Canvas. Also, one of the things I want to point out in the video that I thought that was interesting, and especially for you as young people, if you haven't decided what you are going to do with the rest of your life yet, you need to consider look being a technician. We are moving towards AI, and robots cannot replace us because you need people to run the robots. So you need to take whatever field you're interested in and learn the technical side of it, learn the computer side of it, because that is definitely the direction that we're going in. Like you all are taking your classes online. Um, find an area that you like and then learn the technical side of it, because that will make you a valuable person. That will make you, and that's what you need to do these days to make yourself a valuable person. Why they would hire you over somebody else, and um, knowing how to run a fingerprint machine, knowing the techniques behind whatever it is that you want to do. That, like I said, will make you a better hire than somebody else who has no background in machines or technology or knows anything about computers, because that is the direction we're moving in. AI, it definitely is taking over, and you want to make sure that you are preparing yourself for that as far as going out into the world of employment. All right, so I'm going to stop talking, let you read. Please do read this. Again, your homework assignment, like they said before in the video, is to figure out what your fingerprint is. So tomorrow I will have an activity that involves you studying your fingerprint. So you will have to find a way to actually apply your fingerprint to paper that you can upload with the assignment. So there, like I said, there are different foods. Um, Food coloring might do it for you. I don't want you to dye your fingers so that you're walking around with purple fingers for the rest of the week or something like that, but something that's easily washable. But do figure out how to um, get your fingerprint, and then figure out what kind of you'll be looking to answer all of these questions as far as classification. Do you have a whirl, or do you loop? Are you an arch? How many deltas? You want to be able to identify your deltas, identify your core, the minutiae on your fingerprint. So that's where that assignment is going. So just a heads up on what will show up tomorrow. Okay. All right. So again, spend the rest of this time. Might pop up with something else in a minute, but take the next few minutes to read through these and become familiar with the vocabulary. All right. He talked a little bit about digital fingerprints. And notice that like the last unit we did also was they used the term fingerprint kind of broadly. We use the DNA as a fingerprint. They talked about voice fingerprints, but it's basically something that identifies you. All right. So again, I'm going to stop talking so you can read. I have some questions for you in just a little while. So do read. Don't say I'll read it later. Read now. Okay. All right. When I look at Go Guardian, everybody should be reading. And folks, I do take note of the folks who are logged in and then it says idle for 30 minutes. That means you're just logged in and you're doing something else. You're here for attendance and you're not doing your work. I take that into account when I'm grading late assignments. Okay. All right. So again, just a reminder, figure out what your fingerprint is. Almost time for us to go. Figure out what your fingerprint is, what type it is, because that's going to be your assignment that you'll have to submit. And if you have no questions for me, make sure that you spend some time finish reading that assignment, and I'll see you tomorrow.